also need to make sure that we bring everybody on this journey. And a lot of that is about giving people digital skills. Now, this is easy if you have access to the internet. It's easy, well, you could argue, if you're young, if you're in an urban area. Can you talk about some of the areas you think are more challenging and how you think we can give digital skills to people so that they aren't left behind?
I think that is one of the biggest challenges that this digital age is posing. If you look at India itself, for instance, how many people have smartphones? Not only smartphones, even if you look at the gender divide, many more men have phones than women. And then again, if you look at the urban-rural divide, you'll find that in the rural areas, again, the number of people owning smartphones are far smaller than the number of people who are owning smartphones in the urban area. So we have one company, for instance, which is trying to bring out a smartphone within a very reasonable price so as to ensure that every single Indian can have a screen of their own. And this is absolutely important because unless and until you have access to the internet, unless and until you have the broadband to enable you to actually get on the net with a device that is compatible with it, you will be definitely left behind. That is one piece of it, giving people access. The other piece of it is the realization that skilling is very necessary. When we did the financial inclusion exercise that I talked about right in the beginning called JAM, which is, the Jan-Dhan accounts as they were called at that time, the idea was that every single family must have at least one bank account. When we started, about 58% of the families in India had bank accounts. By the time we finished 98%, in 7 months' time, at least one bank account was there per family, which enabled the government to directly put in the subsidy money into the bank accounts and prevent the huge leakage that was going on otherwise. Now, the fact of the matter is that along with access, what really made this program very effective was the literacy that was imparted, the financial literacy, the digital literacy as to how to actually operate these accounts and ensure that you got the full benefit of it. So therefore, digital skilling is extremely important. I was looking at another report, and that report was saying that actually speaking, reskilling your own people costs you 6 times less than hiring from outside. So if you even look at the cost structures, companies themselves need to take up the reskilling work. As for the public at large, there are very many free platforms. For instance, we have a platform in Salesforce called Trailhead, which is free and where people can actually go in and train themselves into the various ways in which digital work can be done. And actually, from the beginning of the pandemic, we have seen an uptick of almost 29% of usage of Trailhead, of the badges that have been actually acquired by people, which are given at the end of the course, or when a person successfully completes a particular module. So there has been an uptick of almost 29% there. People are aware that they need to reskill themselves, and there are very many platforms which do not cost anything, but you do need access to them. So for access purposes, this is an infrastructure issue that needs to be addressed by the government for sure.
I'm interested in how you encourage women to get those skills as well. I know that's something that's very important to you. Have you seen as many women as men using the Trailhead?
I have not. And that is absolutely one of the things, that I believe that we need to do right from the beginning. In fact, if you look at STEM education itself, I believe that we need to work hugely with women students, with girl students, to make them agreeable to try out the STEM areas of education. By tradition, somehow or the other, we have found that the women tend to go towards the liberal arts. I myself am an English literature major, and therefore, from there to have actually headed a Fortune 500 bank and the largest bank in India now into a tech company, it just shows that everything can be done. It's a question of wanting to get it done. And therefore, I think we need the right kind of incentives, the right kind of advocacy, to ensure that we are getting our youngsters enthused enough to go in for STEM education, to enable them to obtain the kind of skills that will be necessary for the future.